So under the layer of fat, we have the renal capsule. Renal capsule is a tough fibrous connective tissue that wraps around the kidney. So usually in our organ, we have a membrane, a surface membrane to surround organ like your heart or your lung. They have a double layer of membrane that surround the organ. But for organs that do not move all the time, like your kidney, they will have this tough fibrous membrane to wrap around it. And then you have a depression on the surface of the kidney, we call it hilum. This depression is where the exit and the entry point of renal artery and renal vein, and also the urethra. So it is the exit for renal vein and urethra, but the entry for renal artery. Urethra, okay, it's a muscular tube, so it can contract and relax. It can do something similar to peristalsis, to squeeze the urine from the kidney all the way down to your urinary bladder. It is approximately this size, 75 cm long and 5 mm in diameter. You don't need to memorize the number, it just gives you the approximate, it gives you an idea, the size of the ureters. Yes, it connects the kidney to your bladder, and it do peristalsis to squeeze the urine from kidney all the way down to the bladder. It has 3 layers in the ureters. The innermost layer that is in direct contact with the urine, we call it a mucosa. And then in the middle layer, there is the smooth muscle that causes peristalsis, the contraction and relaxation, the synchronous contraction and relaxation that helps to move or propel the urine. And then you have the outermost part is the connective tissue again. Usually we use connective tissue, let's say for example, the renal capsule, or in this case, the connective tissue on the surface of the urethra to protect the organ. That's the general, to protect the organ, and also to use the connective tissue to help to so-called connect the organ with other part of in the bodies to give it a stable location. And then our urinary bladder is where we store the urine until we are ready to expel or urinate or mitigate. The urine. The volume of the urinary bladder is approximately 250 milliliter. Urinary bladder has 3 openings. 2 are the input from the urethra. You have 2 urethra, from left and right, connecting the left and right kidneys. And then 1 opening which goes to urethra. And your kidney is expandable because it has fibers and 2 layers of muscles. And they have something called transitional epithelium. So when your bladder is not filled, the cells, they look like cuboidal cells that we talked about in the last online lecture. But when your bladder is filled with urine, then your bladder will stretch. And this transitional epithelium, originally they look like cuboidal cell. When they stretch, they look like squamous cell. That's why we call it transitional, because the epithelium will change the shape according to the how much urine you have in the bladder. You also have 2 sphincter muscles to control the release of the urine into urethra. And this sphincter muscle is the one that one of them is voluntary, one of them is involuntary. I believe, if I remember correctly, the voluntary one is the one that is the involuntary one is the one closer to the bladder. The voluntary one is farther away from the bladder. The voluntary one is the one that when we were a baby, when we were kids, our parents trained us to control. And other than that, it didn't mention in here, there are mechanical stretch receptor located in the urinary bladder. The mechanical stretch receptor detect the stretching of the urinary bladder, so that when your urinary bladder is full, then it will send the signal. Your stretch receptor will be stretched, and then you send the action potential back to your brain to tell your brain that, okay, your urinary bladder is full now, then you have to go to do number 1. Urethra is the output of your urinary bladder. Basically, the key point is the last one. It is longer in male than female. In male, we also use the urethra to transport semen, and that causes infection. It will be more common. The urethra, female it's more common for female to get the urinary bladder infection than male, because the length of the urethra, female has shorter length of urethra, so the bacteria doesn't only need to crawl in a short distance in order to move from the opening of the urethra to the bladder. But it is much longer in male, therefore by the time the bacteria crawl from the opening of the urethra all the way close to the bladder, then the male will urinate again. Then we'll have to rinse out the bacteria. So this is the gross anatomy, or the relative location of the structure we just talked about. Kidneys, and this is the adrenal glands, and then kidney produce urine, and then you see that you have the urethra coming out from the hilum. This is the hilum. You have the renal artery, renal vein, and then come also from the hilum. So hilum, you have these 3 things: renal artery, renal vein, and then urethra. And then urethra, they will go to the urinary bladder. So 2 input to go to the urinary bladder, and then 1 output, the urethra. And you can see that the kidney, it is drawn, the left kidney is higher than the right kidney. It is not drawn by mistake. It is the actual depiction of what happened in our body. The main reason is that our right kidney why is it lower than the left kidney? Because the right side of our body here, the abdominal cavity, we have a very large liver located at this area. The liver is so large and it actually pushed down our right kidney. So this is anatomically accurate depiction of the relative position of the 2 kidneys. Okay, urination. The official scientific name is called mituration. So it is triggered when the urinary bladder is full. When it's full, it is approximately 250 milliliter. How much is 250 milliliter? It is approximately your the regular coffee mug, ceramic coffee mug. So that is the regular. It's like 1 cup of water or 1 cup of coffee. Stretch receptors send the signal to the spinal cord. This is something that I told you. You have mechanical stretch receptor in your urinary bladder, so that when your urinary bladder is full, then your bladder will stretch to enlarge to accommodate the urine. And then when it stretch to enlarge, then you will stimulate the stretch receptor and then stretch receptor will send action potential to your spinal cord, and then go to your brain, and then your brain will send a downward downstream motor action potential signal, motor signal, to tell the sphincter to relax and the bladder to contract. Then it is the urination. So we learn how to control this reflex. So this is very simplified pictures. You can see that you have nerve surrounding the entire urinary bladder to detect the stretching, and then you can send signal to your spinal cord, so that you will tell your spinal cord, you will tell your brain that it is full, and then your brain will send a downward motor command back to your urinary bladder, so that your urinary bladder can contract. Similarly, the sphincter. So you can see that the internal sphincter, the sphincter that is closer to your urinary bladder, this one is involuntary. But the external sphincter, this one is voluntary. So this is the one that the brain, we can voluntarily control it. So we can send a downward motor command to tell this muscle sphincter to relax, then we will have a urination occur.